The Capitol protest happening right now in Washington, D.C. is not acceptable. I don't care if you voted for Donald Trump or Joe Biden. We should all come together and say that this violence is not something we can allow in a democracy. Because we can't. If we can just storm the Capitol if we don't like an election, well, that pretty much ends all of the elections. So if you don't know what's happening, here are some pictures to show you essentially what's going on. Today, Congress was going to vote to either accept or reject the Electoral College vote. There were a number of Republican senators and congressmen who were going to vote against accepting the Electoral College decision. And I suppose in support of them, Trump protesters came to the Capitol building and they started protesting around Washington, D.C. That right there is completely fine. If you want to protest, you can protest. That is a First Amendment right. The issue, however, is when they started storming the building, and yes, people have been hurt. At least one woman has been shot, and we're not entirely sure how her condition is. So we've certainly gone away from a peaceful protest, and we're now more akin to looters, rioters, and violence. Now, I won't go as far as the media did and say that Donald Trump incited this violence, because I don't believe that is the case. But I do think that he has not done nearly enough to condemn the violence. At least at the time of this recording, all he has done is sent out a tweet or two saying that we need to stay peaceful, which doesn't really do much of anything. Vice President Pence and Ted Cruz and a number of other prominent Republicans who still support President Trump have come out much more forcefully, and they've said you need to stop this violence is not acceptable. But Donald Trump has just kind of been a little bit too lukewarm in my opinion. And I say all of this as a guy who did vote for President Trump. I wish he would continue to be president, but that's not going to happen. He lost the election, and we should accept that. What we should not do is storm the Capitol and stop Congress from accepting the Electoral College votes. That is not at all something that should cross your mind. The fact that it's happening right now is, to me at least, a little bit unbelievable. That they've had to stop the session in Congress, and they probably won't get to it today. They'll have to wait till tomorrow, and I guess we'll have to see what happens. And this isn't even changing anything. Joe Biden is still going to be president whether you like it or not. And again, I don't like it, but it's going to happen. All this is doing is showing that there are Trump supporters who just can't accept it and are willing to resort to violence in order to try and stop it. For the past several months, I have on many occasions condemned the violence that came from Antifa and Black Lives Matter as they were out so-called protesting. Now, some of them were certainly peaceful, but there were more than 200 instances of violence. And I would be hypocritical here if I didn't also call out and condemn the violence we're seeing now. Now, you're watching this video, so you're probably not out there being violent. And good for you. But please, please don't try and excuse it and support it. I have seen some Republicans' friends who are trying to pretend that it's not that big a deal because Trump was cheated or whatever. And even if you believe that, even if you think that it was somehow rigged and Trump was the actual president, he just got, cheated out of the election, does that mean that you can then resort to violence and storm the Capitol? Keep in mind that 4 years ago, Democrats were convinced, virtually without a shadow of a doubt, that Trump had cheated the election with the help of Russia. Now, that's obviously bogus, but they believed it. So I guess because they believed it, they would have been justified in going and storming the Capitol in a very similar way? I don't think so. And if you're a Republican, you would not have liked that 4 years ago, so please, please do not support that now. Violence, whether it comes from the right or the left, is just not acceptable. And storming the Capitol building, even if no one had been hurt, is still not acceptable. This Capitol protest is a bad idea, and it's a terrible way for President Trump to end his presidency if he doesn't come out more forcefully and vocally and condemn these people, because they should be condemned completely. One last time, I'm a conservative. I wish President Trump had won that election, but that does not justify what is happening right now at Capitol Hill.